we have the brand new livery here on not the Formula 1 car you race here, but we see it's matte. Does it have any effect on the aerodynamics? Because there are some people that say it's a bit better.
No, it doesn't really. There is a very small difference in the surface texture between a matte finish and a gloss finish, but in aerodynamic terms for these cars, it doesn't mean a thing.
So you're not looking into it, but you're looking into every single other part of the car. Since the testing days, what can we expect from the car here? Did you change anything major, or...?
The car is essentially the car we had in Barcelona, which is what we always intended. We wanted to establish a good solid baseline in Barcelona so that we could take it to Melbourne and know what we had. Melbourne is all about being there at the end. It's always a little bit of a lottery, the first race of the season. And we have two younger drivers. We want to just make sure that we're there at the end to collect some points. And that's probably the most important thing to do this weekend. I don't think it would look very good if Renault's return debut race was marred with DNF. So we want to make sure we're there at the end. We'll push hard and we'll push the cars as much as we can to get the most performance, but we do know that this weekend is about being there at the end to collect some points.
This could be a quite important weekend for you. So you said after that you have a better knowledge of where you're standing with the car, and then you have to decide on what you're doing for the next season because the regulations are changing quite much. When do you think you have to take this decision on concentrating on this year's car to develop it or building the next year's car?
Well, it's a decision all teams take every season, and it very much depends on the individual team's circumstances, and we're in no different position this year. So normally, and I'm sure it'll be the same this year, we would let the first quarter of the season go by and really make a hard call at that point about exactly what the switchover point for resources would be. We're already working to a schedule on that in terms of how much effort we're putting into this year's car versus next, but I think we'll probably reassess it after the first 3 or 4 races.
When we saw the car first, there was one thing that only Renault has, which is one additional exhaust pipe for the wastegate. Why did you choose that solution with one additional exhaust pipe?
Well, there was a degree of expediency about it because of the late requirement to install a Renault engine in an end-stone chassis. It didn't leave us a lot of choice to choose the best option through extended development programs, so it was the most expedient solution for us, not necessarily the most optimal, and we will in time put on the car the best solution from a performance point of view. But at that point in time, it was the best thing for us to do.
From outside, the cars look quite similar to last year because there haven't been too much changes in regulation except from the exhaust and from the side impact structure. But what was the biggest challenge for you? Of course, for you was to build the engine inside the car. But apart from that, what was the biggest challenge for you this year?
Well, I think, to be honest, the challenge over the winter was to be able to manage the logistics of producing that car with enough parts to go racing in Melbourne. We knew what the car was we wanted, and honestly, the biggest hurdle lay with the overworked production staff who had to make all the components and manage their delivery so that we had enough bits to actually compete here in Melbourne. That's difficult enough in a normal season, but for a year in which the decision to put a Renault engine in the car was made so late, that is a massively increased challenge, and great credit to everybody involved on that side of the operation to deliver on that.
When we look at the front of the car, I think only Mercedes and you decided to have this beautiful looking nose. For us it's looking beautiful and the best looking nose in the field, but for you it's not looking good. For you it's fast. Can you explain why?
Well, we always try and produce fast cars that look nice. We'll always sacrifice looks for speed, but it's nice when you can produce something that's performant and looks good as well, and generally they go hand in hand. The front wing is a natural evolution and the nose is a natural evolution for most teams, and we're no exception. It is a small step forward in performance, and it's one of those things that will continually develop. over the course of the season, particularly the front wing. It's a very obvious target. But you'll notice if you look at the front wing just how complicated they are now, the number of surfaces on them. And we could bring a new wing to a track that's, you know, a useful step forward in formation. You'd barely notice the difference in the shape, but it's so subtle now. So, yeah, it's a very crucial part of the car. It's the most upstream point, and so everything that it does affects everything behind it. And the differences can be extremely subtle.
But usually you try to get the most possible air under the car to have a good flow to the diffuser. Why did you choose another philosophy with that? You have to follow your own results and your own development program, and the path that we chose was purely guided by the results that came from the CFD simulations, the wind tunnel simulations. It wasn't a conscious decision that we like this, so we'll follow this. It's what the numbers told us. And if you divert from that philosophy, then you'll get lost. And so that's what the tunnel said was best. That's the route we took. Have you already seen something on the cars from the competitors you thought, oh, that's it, that's a nice solution this year?
Yeah, you always see details on other people's cars that you think, you know, that's a nice solution, and we'll have a look at that. But the truth is that these cars are so closely coupled in terms of one part affecting the performance of another part that it's often the case that when you see something that's different and you try it on your own car, you don't see the benefit that the other person saw. So you have to be a little bit cautious about that.
Okay, so thank you very much and good luck for the season opener.
Thank you.